You want me to get coffee? Her voice didn't crack. She smiled. That's how it started. One request, one moment, one choice to bite her tongue and watch. Claire Morgan was 27, fresh out of her MBA. She had the grades, the internships, the ideas. She even had a few startup pitches under her belt. But none of it seemed to matter when she walked into the towering glass building of Rydell and Marks, a mid-sized consulting firm known for disrupting industries and optimizing operations. But only if you looked like you belonged. Claire didn't. She wasn't loud. She wasn't aggressive. She didn't schmooze during happy hour or slapbacks in meetings. And worst of all, she was a woman. A smart, young woman who didn't pretend to know everything. That made them nervous. So they laughed. Her first week was a whirlwind of onboarding, spreadsheets, and patronizing smiles. By week 2, the real culture began to reveal itself. "You're better at organizing," one manager said, sliding a stack of printouts toward her. "We need someone to take notes," another added before a pitch meeting. And during that pitch, Claire watched her own strategy deck, the one she stayed up building, appear under someone else's name. Jason. He presented it with the confidence of someone who had no idea what any of it meant, but the clients loved it. They signed. The room erupted in applause. Jason was promoted 2 days later. Claire was given a great team player mention in the internal Slack. No one looked her in the eye. That night, she sat in her studio apartment, laptop glowing in the dark. She didn't cry. She didn't call her best friend or her mother. She opened Excel, then Notion, then LinkedIn, and she started watching. If you've ever been underestimated, ignored, sidelined because of your gender, this story is for you. Make sure to subscribe, and if you believe power doesn't need to shout, it just needs to show up prepared. Claire began documenting everything. Not to expose, not yet. She created a private folder, R&M Observations. Inside were notes like, "Senior partner doesn't know CRM system, defers to interns. Q4 budget overspend hidden in vendor realignment, 80% of revenue from 3 clients, high risk." She started to understand what they didn't. Rydell and Marks wasn't strong. It was noisy. Behind the jargon and confidence was chaos, and Claire had found the cracks. They didn't even notice her watching. In their eyes, she was still the girl who took coffee orders and double-checked slide fonts. But Claire, she was building something. Late at night, she watched webinars on digital transformation, B2B resilience, and crisis acquisition. She started modeling their client portfolios. Just for fun, she told herself. But it wasn't for fun. It was for the moment they'd need help, and she'd be ready. At the office, they still laughed. They called her Quiet Claire, the reliable one, the safe one. They gave her just enough to stay, but never enough to rise. In one meeting, a junior associate asked if she was the new admin assistant. She smiled. "Yes," she said. "I assist." But not for long. At the end of that quarter, Claire took 2 days off. She said she needed a break. She flew to another city, registered an LLC. The name? Lumina Strategies. It was clean, neutral, untraceable, and it would be the beginning of something far bigger than any of them could imagine. She walked into the office the following Monday, coffee in hand. Jason passed her in the hallway. "Claire, could you double-check the figures on slide 8? She paused, looked at him, then smiled. Of course. But that night, she adjusted the figures. Not for Jason's deck, for her own, for Lumina. Ready to see how Claire flips the script? Block 2 is where the real strategy begins. Stay tuned, and if you're loving this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more quiet, calculated revenge. They thought she was distracted. She was actually downloading their future, spreadsheet by spreadsheet. Claire became invisible on purpose. She wore neutral colors, nodded in meetings, took notes no one would read, and quietly connected dots no one else could see. While they joked in Slack and traded crypto tips in the break room, Claire was doing something else. She was learning the machine, so she could later dismantle it. Her nights were sacred. No parties, no distractions. Just a MacBook, a second monitor, and a playlist called War Plans. Lumina Strategies, her new company, started as a single Google Doc. Then it became a Notion database of competitor weaknesses, an Airtable sheet with R&M's client churn patterns, a folder of anonymized financial models, a private email server with the name Claire M. Winston. Winston was her grandmother's name, a fighter pilot in World War II. Seemed fitting. She registered the company in a state with strict data privacy laws, hired a freelance graphic designer to build a sleek site, no photos, no bio, just services. We solve the problems you didn't see coming. And slowly, she began collecting allies. Not friends, strategic partners. Her first contact was Mia Chen, a financial analyst she once met at a tech conference. Brilliant, underappreciated, tired of being passed over. Claire pitched her in a 2-paragraph email. Mia, you once said, efficiency should be dangerous. I never forgot that. Want to build something silent and sharp together? Mia replied in 8 minutes. I'm in. Next came Adesh, a cybersecurity expert recently laid off from a firm after whistleblowing on shady contracts. Then Jessica, a quiet branding genius who could repackage a dying firm into a market leader with 3 colors and 2 fonts. Within 6 months, Lumina wasn't just a shell. It was a whisper, spreading through LinkedIn DMs, encrypted calls, and NDAs, all while Claire still worked at Rydell and Marks, still fetching reports, still running support decks, still staying late to fix formatting. And in those late hours when the office was dark, she'd copy internal docs onto a secure drive. Not secrets, just mistakes, patterns, errors in strategy no one saw, but everyone would soon feel. Then came the big one. Quarter 3. The quarter R&M launched their AI division. On paper, genius. In practice, catastrophe. They invested $4 million into a platform that hadn't passed testing. The CTO was bluffing. The sales deck was smoke. Claire watched it unfold like a slow car crash. Jason was put in charge. Of course he was. He had no idea what AI even stood for. She watched as he fumbled through meetings, misused terminology, and promised things the tech team couldn't build. Clients started backing out. The CEO got nervous. And Claire? Claire got ready. She wrote a white paper that night. AI Readiness, 6 Strategic Failures That Tank Mid-Sized Firms. Published it anonymously through Lumina, shared it with a few contacts. It went viral on LinkedIn, especially among firms R&M wanted to woo. By month's end, R&M had lost 2 major clients. Then, the phone rang. Not Claire's, Lumina's. A strategic partnership inquiry from none other than Rydell and Marks. They didn't know. Not yet. They had no idea that the woman they'd ignored, sidelined, and used as a human printer was the one now holding the solution to their unraveling. Claire scheduled the call, put it on mute, watched them beg, listened to her old managers spin half-truths, downplay losses, plead for solutions. She scheduled a second call. This time, she'd appear. She clicked accept on the Zoom link, camera on, blazer crisp, lighting perfect, and when they saw her face, silence. Ready for block 3, the return? That's where Claire walks into the room, and everything shifts. If you're enjoying her rise, hit like, leave a comment, and make sure you're subscribed. The real payback hasn't even started. You look familiar, one of them said. Claire tilted her head. Just slightly. Do I? She smiled. The Zoom call felt like a performance. Claire had rehearsed every second of it. The lighting behind her was cool but clear. Her background? A minimalist, book-lined office. Strategic. Clean. Authority without noise. She wore navy, not black. Too much black screamed revenge. Navy whispered control. The panel across the screen, 4 Rydell and Marks executives, squirmed as her name appeared: Claire M. Winston, CEO, Lumina Strategies. They tried not to flinch. She let the silence breathe. Then she spoke. Let's begin. Simple, calm, deadly. Jason blinked too much. Lauren, the chief revenue officer, began typing furiously on her side screen. Likely a Slack DM to someone. The CEO, Kenneth Marks himself, cleared his throat. Claire, we weren't aware you were involved with Lumina. I am, she said, deeply. The proposal was on the table. R&M needed an outside partner to help restructure the failed AI division, assess digital maturity, and stabilize 3 client portfolios on the verge of collapse, and Lumina was one of the 3 remaining candidates. The best one. Claire didn't gloat. She outlined her firm's process with precision. We run a full systems audit, no internal hand-holding. All findings are independently verified. All contracts include compliance clauses. Kenneth tried to smile. We're, open to a non-disclosure arrangement if necessary. Claire leaned forward, just an inch. We won't need one. Transparency is part of our culture. I trust that's not a problem. Silence, then a slight cough. Not at all, he said. She saw it in their eyes: recognition, regret, and most delicious of all, uncertainty. 3 days later, the decision came in. Lumina Strategies had been selected, and with it, Claire negotiated 3 key clauses into the contract. 1. Operational veto rights on strategic hires. 2. Equity-based compensation tied to project milestones. 3. Temporary advisory role on the executive board. R&M agreed. They had no choice. On the first day of the transition, Claire walked into the glass tower again. Same marble floors, same cold air conditioning, same receptionist, who now stood when she saw her. Ms. Winston, they're expecting you upstairs. She nodded. Conference room 9. It used to be her least favorite, the place where her work was stolen, her voice muted. Now? She entered last. Let them wait. The room rose when she stepped in. She didn't ask them to. She didn't say a word at first. Claire opened her laptop, connected the projector, and clicked the first slide. Title: How to Save a Company That Didn't Listen. Gasps. One of the managers chuckled nervously. Is that a working title? Claire didn't look up. No, that's the report. Over the next 45 minutes, she dismantled R&M's internal processes with surgical precision. Every flaw, every missed opportunity, every oversight she had once flagged and been ignored for. Now it was data, irrefutable. Jason tried to challenge one finding. Claire paused the presentation. I appreciate the comment, Jason, but according to your own Slack messages, dated May 3rd at 11:48 p.m., you instructed the DevOps team to skip validation. She turned to the screen, where a screenshot appeared. His message, in bold. He turned crimson. Claire didn't even blink. She just continued, slide after slide. By the end of the presentation, the room was silent, not with fear, but with respect. Reluctant, uncomfortable, undeniable respect. And that's all she ever wanted. Not applause, not revenge porn, just truth, recognized. Claire packed her laptop, paused at the door, then turned around. One last thing, she said. We'll need to restructure the team. Some roles are no longer required. Jason looked up. Her eyes met his, cold, professional. You'll be notified by end of day. Block 4 is where the reckoning continues, and Claire builds something no one can ever take away. If you're still with us, hit like, share your thoughts, and subscribe, because Claire's only just begun. Claire didn't raise her voice, she didn't slam doors, she didn't deliver fiery speeches, she signed documents, she issued memos, she moved chess pieces quietly and with purpose. Jason was the first to go. Official reason: repeated procedural non-compliance. Next came the VP of Strategy, the one who used to interrupt her mid-sentence in meetings. Then the COO, the one who once said, "You're great with details, Claire, not sure you're visionary material." Each departure was clean, documented, legal, but unmistakably final. She didn't humiliate anyone, she didn't gloat. Claire understood something her former colleagues never did. Power isn't loud, it's decisive. Every morning now began with a 7:30 a.m. leadership huddle, half the room made up of women, smart, steady, strategic. She didn't hire for gender, she hired for vision. It just so happened that the people who weren't taken seriously for years had the clearest vision of all. Rydell and Marks began to shift. The new website dropped the bro culture language. No more hustle harder, no more stock photos of handshakes. Instead, integrity at scale. We listen before we build. Run by strategists, not salesmen. Claire even rewrote the company's core values herself, from scratch. They used to say, speed, strength, scale now, precision, accountability, legacy. And people noticed. LinkedIn exploded with reactions. Is this really R&M? This looks like a different company. I just applied. I never thought I'd say that. The biggest turning point came 2 months later, the Forbes interview. They asked her how she turned around a company that once ignored her. She smiled. "I didn't turn it around," she said. "I built what was missing." The article went viral. Headline: "The woman they overlooked, and now report to." Claire became a symbol, not of revenge, but of reclamation. Meanwhile, the executive board shifted. She replaced the traditional old guard advisory model with a rotating council of innovators, 50% women, 30% BIPOC, and every single one a first-generation college graduate. At the next annual summit, Claire took the stage. No hype music, no spotlights. She wore slate gray, minimal jewelry, hair tied back, laser focus. She opened with numbers. 24% revenue growth in 6 months. 3 major clients re-signed. Employee retention up 42%. Then paused. "Before we get excited about what's ahead," she said, "I want to acknowledge what we're leaving behind." Beat dismissal, arrogance, a culture that confused confidence with competence. She scanned the crowd. "I didn't come back for revenge. I came back to remove the illusion that some voices matter more than others." Soft music under applause began slowly, then grew. Not the polite kind, the kind that meant, "We see you now." And yet, Claire wasn't done. There was still one last message she needed to deliver. Not in a meeting, not in a keynote, but in silence. One evening, long after everyone left, she stood alone in the lobby. Facilities was replacing the company signage. The old logo, blocky, outdated, male-centric in its form, was taken down. In its place, R&M, with a new subtitle underneath, "Rebuilt, Reimagined, by Everyone." Claire didn't take a photo, didn't post it online. She just stood there and breathed. The story isn't over yet. In Block 5, Claire reflects on her journey and leaves a message for every woman who's ever been told to wait her turn. If this chapter resonated with you, smash that like button, comment your thoughts, and hit subscribe, because the quietest victories echo the longest. Claire sat alone in her office. No board meetings, no Zoom calls, no headlines, just silence. She looked out the glass wall onto the city below, the same view she once stared at from a windowless cubicle 2 floors down. Back then, she counted the steps between her desk and the printer. Now she counted her impact, not in numbers, but in names: Mia, Jessica, Adesh, Zara, Tanya, Layla. Names that once belonged to whispers, now echoed in boardrooms. She wasn't interested in being the face of a movement. She never wanted a TED Talk. She didn't post threads on LinkedIn or publish thought leadership pieces every week. What she wanted was to build a place where no one else had to go through what she did. One afternoon, her old HR manager emailed her, "You've become quite the inspiration." Claire didn't reply, because it wasn't a compliment. It was an admission, a late one. People often assumed her silence meant she forgave them, but silence isn't always forgiveness. Sometimes it's focus. Sometimes it's choosing not to explain yourself anymore. She kept a small object on her desk, a paperclip, silver, slightly bent. It reminded her of her first week at R&M, when she was told to just help with admin stuff and handed a box of paperclips to organize. Back then, it stung. Now, it was a trophy, not for revenge, but for the restraint it took not to scream, for the discipline to plan in the dark, for the clarity to act without burning the building down. And yet, when people asked her what she was most proud of, it wasn't the restructure, it wasn't the Forbes feature, it wasn't even the revenue, it was the lunchroom. Simple, bright, filled with voices that used to be quiet. There was laughter now, open debates, brainstorming sessions on napkins. People belonged here. That, to Claire, was the real legacy. She took a final sip of her tea. The office was quiet again. Evening fell, and then, as if to no one, she spoke. "They told me I wasn't loud enough to lead, so I rose quietly. So quietly, they couldn't hear me until I was above them." She stood, walked to the elevator. The floor indicator blinked softly, L to G. As the doors opened, the lobby lights caught a new bronze plaque by the entrance. Morgan Atrium, in honor of leadership that listens. One last chapter remains. In Block 6, the final frame, we close Claire's journey with one scene, one image, and one question. What would you have done in her place? If you've made it this far, you felt it too. Drop a comment, share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe. This isn't just Claire's story, it's ours. Claire walked through the atrium, each step echoing softly against the marble. It wasn't the same building anymore, but it was. Same walls, same glass, same address, different energy. The security guard, the same one who once asked her if she was here for an interview, nodded respectfully. She smiled back. No hard feelings, just history. Outside, the street buzzed with the rhythm of the city. Taxis, coffees to go, people in a hurry. But Claire wasn't. She stood on the sidewalk, looked up. Above her, the new sign gleamed in the afternoon light. R&M subtext, rebuilt, reimagined, by everyone. And beneath that, a quiet, slow reveal. A Morgan Group company. She didn't cry, didn't smile either. She just stood there, shoulders square, hands in her coat pockets. And then, she exhaled, slow voiceover tone. "They underestimated me, because I didn't shout, because I didn't beg, because I didn't break. But I didn't come here to break their system. I came to prove I could build something better." She turned away from the building, started walking down the street. The camera lingered, just a few seconds longer, long enough for one final moment. At the corner, a younger woman stood nervously holding a resume folder. Claire glanced at her. The girl looked unsure, hopeful, anxious. Claire walked past her, paused, then turned back. "You looking for the hiring office?" she asked. The girl nodded. Claire smiled, warm, real. "Come on, I'll walk you up." They entered the building together, doors closed behind them, final text on screen. She didn't take revenge. She took her place. You just watched a story that isn't fiction for millions of women. If you felt something, leave a comment, like the video, subscribe for more powerful true-to-life stories.